In June 2021, a spectacular archaeological find hit the newspaper headlines, the earliest example of the Basque language. This is exciting, I could not say otherwise, but the Hand of Irulegi is much more than that. Let me tell you about it. The Hand of Irulegi was unearthed in 2021 during the excavations in the archaeological site of Irulegi to the south of modern Pamplona in Navarre, Basque country, Spain. The bronze artifact has the distinctive shape of a right hand. It has been dated to the 1st century BC thanks to the archaeological context. The site where it was found was a native settlement which became under attack during the Sertorian Wars in Roman Hispania between 80 and 72 BCE, in a civil war in which Roman rebels, the Sertorians, fought the government of Rome. The hand was probably some sort of amulet for the protection of the house, and it has been suggested it was hanging from the door. The roof of the house collapsed, and this allowed for the preservation of archaeological remains under the debris. The hand was already an incredibly interesting find in itself, when the restorer noticed, soon after it was unearthed, that the hand featured, moreover, 4 lines of text. The only line that has been deciphered so far reads Zorioneku, which sounds amazingly similar to a common expression in modern Basque, Zorionak, good health. Is this a witness to the Basque language in the 1st century? Please join me in a trip to Spain to find more about the Hand of Irulegi, where I will consult with Eugenio Lujan, a professor at the Universidad Complutense de Madrid, and a world-known specialist in pre-Roman languages. Let's go.
Hola Sofía, alegría volver a verte, así que vamos a mi despacho.
So my first question is, what is a pre-Roman language?
We know that other languages were spoken in Spain and Portugal before the Romans arrived. That's what we call pre-Roman languages of Spain. We also call them Paleo-Hispanic languages, and we know several of them. We know that they spoke Iberian, basically on the Mediterranean coast of the Iberian Peninsula. We also know that some people spoke a Celtic language in ancient Spain. We call it Celtiberian. We also know that other people spoke an Indo-European language that we call Lusitanian. That is, this is a language that is genetically related to other languages spoken in ancient Europe, like Latin and later the Germanic languages and so on. And we also know that there were other languages that we know words, and those languages were spoken in southern Spain. And next to that, we now know that there were also speakers of a Vasconic language.
And how do we know about all these languages?
Well, we can know about them because we have inscriptions in those languages. Many people think that we don't have so many inscriptions, but the fact is that nowadays we have more than 2,000 inscriptions in these languages. The problem is that many of them are very short, and we also are not very sure about the grammar and the vocabulary of these languages. So we are not able to understand them properly. We are not able to provide accurate translations of those inscriptions, but we know more and more about them because we have new findings almost every year, and many scholars are working on these languages trying to decipher what these people said in descriptions and trying to understand what they wanted to express when they were carving these inscriptions, because basically these are inscriptions on stones. We also have graffiti on ceramics. Sometimes they show the person that a given object belonged to. And we also have, for instance, very interesting inscriptions on lead tablets that are letters. They were letters dealing with commercial matters, people selling and goods and trading goods with the people that arrived in the Peninsula Iberica. And that's how we know about these languages. Besides that, we also have information provided by Greek and Roman writers. Not because they were giving information specifically about these languages, because Greek and Romans basically thought that people who didn't speak Greek or Latin were barbarians, that is, people who spoke strange and difficult languages, but because when discussing matters about the Iberian Peninsula in antiquity, they mentioned the names of warriors and the names of towns, and so they provide information about the personal names, the god names, and the town names of these people. And that's additional information that we have about these languages.
And these languages that you mentioned, were they written in an alphabet? Were they written in any kind of like writing system that is similar to anything we know in the languages that we know from the Mediterranean?
Ancient languages from Spain and Portugal are written in a family of scripts that we call Paleo-Hispanic scripts, and they originated from Phoenician. But they are very peculiar in the context of the scripts of the ancient Mediterranean, because these scripts were semi-syllabaries. And that is exceptional, because part of the signs are alphabetic, like our current writing systems. For instance, they had alphabetic signs for the vowels and for consonants like N, M, L, or S, but they used syllabic signs for the combination of what we call in linguistics stop plus a vowel. That is combinations like ba, be, ta, te, and so. So this is a characteristic that is only found in Spain among all the scripts in the ancient Mediterranean. The fact that they employed semi-syllabaries.
Specifically about the Hand of Irulegi, because it has been such a boom and it has hit the newspapers. And why, among all these 2,000 inscriptions that you mentioned, this inscription specifically has become such a hit and it's so important for Paleo-Hispanic epigraphy?
This inscription is very important because it was something totally unattended. Before this inscription appeared, basically most of us thought that ancient Basque people, what we call Basconic people, hadn't a script. That is, they weren't able to write. But with the finding of the Irulegi hand, we now know that there was an adaptation of the script employed in ancient Iberia to write a language that, if it is not Basque, it is a Basque-like language. It is a language that belongs to the same family as modern Basque. So we were very happy when this Irulegi hand was found and published, because we started to have direct evidence of the use of the Basque in antiquity.
And what is Basque about this inscription?
Only the first line, unfortunately. This is what my colleagues, Professor Javier Velaza from the University of Barcelona and Professor Joaquín Gorrochategui from the University of the Basque Country have found. When they first studied the inscription, they came to the conclusion that the first word of the inscription, which reads Sorioneku, could be related to a word that is still used in Basque nowadays. It is the word Sorionak. And these words in modern Basque means compliments or good luck. So it would fit very well an object like this hand, because we know that this hand was hanging above a door when the Romans were trying to conquer the ancient town of Irulegi. So the meaning of good luck fits very well with the use of the object, because it was some kind of protection of the people living in that house or using that building, because we are not totally sure about the use of the building, but the hand was put there for protection. So a meaning, like in modern Basque, of good luck fits very well with the use that is archaeologically attested. The problem is that we are not so sure about what happens with the rest of the inscription, because when we look at the following lines, and it is a quite long inscription for in the context of the inscriptions that we have in these ancient languages of Spain, when we look at the other three lines, we are not able to tell what language these other three lines are written in, because in this area we would expect that the inscription could be either in Iberian, in Celtiberian, or in Basconic. But we cannot find good parallels or etymologies for understanding the rest of the inscription, relying on the comparison to Celtic languages, to Iberian inscriptions, or to Basque language.
And going back to a previous question, what are the specific characteristics of the script of the Hand of Irulegi?
Well, like all the other scripts I was mentioning before, it is a semi-syllabary as well. And it must be an adaptation from one of the varieties of Iberian script. But it has certain peculiarities because, for instance, it shows a T-shaped sign that we only knew from means of the Basconic area. And that is very important because we are starting to guess that there was a specific adaptation of these scripts in order to write Basque. Until now, we thought that Basques hadn't developed their own writing system. And now we are starting to see that probably they adapted either from Iberian or from Celtiberian a way of writing down their language. And for instance, in another mint, the mint of Arsaus, there is a special sign that we usually transliterate as an R, but it is not in the same shape as what we find in other varieties of the scripts. We have this T-shaped sign that we are not completely sure how we should transliterate. That is, we are not sure about its phonetic value. And there is also another sign in another Basconic mint that we usually call the mint of Caesars.
So before this spectacular finding, how did we know if Basque was spoken at all in antiquity in the Iberian Peninsula?
Well, we knew that Basque, or at least Basque-related languages, were spoken in ancient Spain and in southern France in antiquity because we had some personal names, some town names, and some god names which were attested on Latin inscriptions or in Greek and Latin authors, and those names could be explained through Basque. For instance, in southern France, where the tribe of the Aquitanians lived, a number of inscriptions were found in which we could read god names that clearly were not Latin. That is, the inscription was written in Latin, but the inscription contained either personal names or god names that were not Latin. And when we try to find connections or etymologies for those personal names or god names, clearly they were related to Basque. For instance, we have personal names on those Aquitanian inscriptions that had the sequence Kison. And this can be related to a Basque word that is still used nowadays, Gison, that means a man. Or for instance, we have female names that begin in andere, and ander in Basque means lady, and so on. We could find god names that were related to Basque animal names, or that were related to the names of certain names of trees in Basque. Therefore, we could be sure that there were people speaking a language closely related to Basque in antiquity. But until now, we didn't have a text that was written in Basque, because all the other evidence is personal names, god names, or town names that can be etymologically explained as related to Basque, but until now we didn't have a text that we could say this is written in Basque.
Well, Eugenio, this has been wonderful. I am very grateful for you to make time to talk with us about this exceptional archaeological piece. And I'm going to thank you in Basque. Eskerrik asko.
It's been a pleasure sharing with you this time and having the opportunity to talk to you about one of my passions, the research on pre-Roman languages of the Iberian Peninsula. And it's been also a pleasure because this is the place where you studied your first university degree, so and it's been great having you back to your alma mater.